The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor. Golden liquid spreading like a broken promise across the pristine white tiles. Rebecca stood frozen in the doorway of her own home, watching as 50 golden balloons bearing the number 50 floated mockingly above the scene that would end her marriage. Her husband, Marcus, was pressed against the granite kitchen counter, his secretary Natalie's red dress hiked up around her thighs, her legs wrapped around his waist. The birthday cake Rebecca had spent 3 days perfecting sat inches from them. Happy 50th Marcus written in elegant script across its surface. "Oh God," Natalie gasped, not from passion but from shock, her eyes meeting Rebecca's over Marcus's shoulder. Marcus spun around, his face draining of color. His shirt was untucked, his gray hair disheveled in a way Rebecca hadn't seen in years. For a moment, nobody moved. The only sound was the gentle bump of balloons against the ceiling and Rebecca's car keys hitting the floor. "Becca," Marcus started, his voice cracking like a teenager's. "This isn't your birthday party, starts in 2 hours, Rebecca said, her voice eerily calm. "Your mother is bringing her famous potato salad. Your brother's flying in from Seattle." She bent down, picked up her keys with steady hands. "I'll leave you to ... prepare." She turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor with metronomic precision. Behind her, she heard Marcus calling her name, heard Natalie's panicked whispers, heard the sound of her 23-year marriage crumbling like old paper. But Rebecca didn't stop walking, because in her car, locked in the glove compartment, was an envelope that would change everything. The real birthday gift she'd planned to give Marcus tonight. Now, it would serve a different purpose entirely. 6 months earlier, Rebecca Sinclair had built her life like a carefully constructed cathedral, each stone placed with purpose and precision. At 48, she had learned to find beauty in routine. Morning coffee at exactly 6:15, yoga at the country club on Tuesdays and Thursdays, charity board meetings that filled her calendar with purposeful importance. She stood in her walk-in closet that morning in January, selecting an outfit for Marcus's company's annual investors meeting. Patterson Industries had been Marcus's life for 25 years, almost as long as their marriage. As his wife, she'd learned to play her part perfectly, the supportive spouse who remembered names, laughed at the right moments, and never overshadowed her husband's presence. "Wear the blue dress," Marcus called from the bathroom, his voice muffled by running water. "You know, the one with the pearls on the collar." Rebecca's hand had been reaching for a burgundy sheath, but she redirected to the blue dress he preferred. It was conservative, aging her by at least 5 years, but Marcus liked it, said it made her look appropriately elegant. The investors' meeting was held at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. Rebecca knew the routine. Arrive precisely 5 minutes after the cocktail hour began, never first, never late, circulate for exactly 45 minutes making small talk, then find her assigned seat next to Marcus for dinner. She was standing near the bar, listening to Harold Blackwood drone on about his yacht, when she first noticed her. Natalie Morgan, 28 years old, Harvard MBA, Marcus's new executive secretary. Rebecca had heard the name, but hadn't met her yet. Marcus had hired her 3 months ago while Rebecca was visiting her sister in Vermont. Natalie was everything Rebecca had once been: hungry, sharp, unencumbered by the weight of compromise. She watched as the younger woman worked the room with natural ease. Her fitted black dress, professional but undeniably attractive, her laugh carrying just the right note of professional warmth. "Your husband's new secretary is quite impressive," Harold commented, following Rebecca's gaze. Marcus mentioned she's already revolutionized his scheduling system. "How wonderful," Rebecca replied, her smile never wavering. During dinner, she noticed things, small things, the way Marcus's eyes tracked Natalie when she stood to give her presentation on quarterly efficiency improvements, the way he smiled, really smiled, not the practiced expression he wore at home, when Natalie made a clever joke about supply chain management, the way Natalie's hand briefly touched Marcus's shoulder when she returned to her seat. A gesture so quick others might have missed it. Rebecca had seen that gesture before. She'd made it herself, 24 years ago, when she was Marcus's secretary at his father's company. The patterns began to emerge slowly, like developing photographs in a darkroom. Marcus started working late, not unusual in itself, but the excuses became more elaborate. Client dinners that didn't appear on the social calendar Rebecca meticulously maintained, weekend conferences that required Natalie's presence but not Rebecca's, a new cologne that appeared on his dresser, something younger, more vibrant than his usual scent. "I'm thinking of redecorating the bedroom," Rebecca mentioned one evening in March, testing the waters as they ate dinner in their vast dining room. Whatever you want, Marcus replied, not looking up from his phone. Natalie, sorry, I need to respond to this. It was the third time he'd mentioned her name that evening. Rebecca hired a private investigator in April. Not because she needed proof, a wife knows, but because she needed documentation. James Carpenter came highly recommended, a former FBI agent who specialized in delicate matrimonial matters. I don't want details, she told him in his sparse office. Just facts, times, dates, locations. Most wives want to know everything, James said, studying her with professional interest. I'm not most wives. The reports came weekly, delivered to a P.O. box she'd rented under her maiden name. Hotel receipts from the Wellington. Always room 412, always Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Restaurant charges at intimate bistros in neighborhoods neither of them frequented. A weekend in Miami that Marcus had told her was a golf trip with clients, but Rebecca didn't confront him. Instead, she did something else entirely. She started taking classes at the community college, corporate law, financial management, real estate investment. She told Marcus she was expanding her charity work, and he nodded absently. Pleased, she had found something to occupy her time. She also started moving money, small amounts at first, from their joint accounts to a separate account at a different bank. She liquidated jewelry Marcus hadn't noticed she'd worn in years. She quietly sold her shares in the country club investment fund. And she began documenting everything about Patterson Industries that Marcus had carelessly left accessible in his home office. The company he'd inherited from his father but built into an empire. The company that, due to an oversight Marcus had never corrected, listed Rebecca as co-founder on several critical early patents and contracts from when she'd helped him. During those struggling first years. By June, Rebecca had built her own empire in the shadows of Marcus's indifference. The birthday party had been Natalie's idea, though Marcus presented it as his own. I want something special for my 50th, he announced one evening, his enthusiasm so genuine it made Rebecca's chest ache. A real celebration. We could have it at the house, invite everyone important. That sounds lovely, Rebecca agreed, already knowing from James's reports that Natalie had spent 3 lunches discussing party themes with Marcus. Rebecca threw herself into planning with a fervor that surprised even her. She hired the best caterer in the city, arranged for a jazz quartet Marcus had once mentioned loving, ordered cases of the specific vintage champagne he'd drunk at their wedding. Every detail was perfect. Perhaps because she knew it would be the last party she'd ever throw as Mrs. Marcus Patterson. The morning of Marcus's birthday, Rebecca woke at 5 a.m. Marcus was still sleeping, his face peaceful in the gray dawn light. She studied him, this man she'd loved for more than 2 decades. When had he become a stranger? Or had he always been one, and she'd simply been too in love to notice? She made his favorite breakfast, eggs Benedict with fresh hollandaise, and brought it to him in bed. What's this? He asked, genuinely surprised. It's your birthday, she said, kissing his forehead. 50 years. How does it feel? Like I'm just getting started, he said, and for a moment, his smile was the one that had made her fall in love with him at 25. I have your gift, Rebecca said, but I want to give it to you tonight, at the party, after everyone's gone. Mysterious, Marcus said, pulling her close. I love you, you know that. I know, Rebecca lied. She spent the morning overseeing party preparations. The house looked magnificent, flowers on every surface, lights strung through the garden, tables set with crystal and silver. She'd even hired a photographer to capture what she knew would be the last gathering in this house. At 3 p.m. She told Marcus she needed to pick up his birthday cake. The caterer couldn't deliver it, he asked, distracted by his phone. It's a special order. I want to make sure it's perfect. He waved her off, already texting someone. Rebecca knew who. The bakery was 40 minutes away, intentionally chosen for the distance. She took her time, chatting with the owner, ensuring every sugar flower was precisely placed. The envelope, his real gift, sat in her glove compartment like a loaded gun. She'd planned to be gone 2 hours, just long enough for the caterers to finish setup, for her to return and dress for the party, for everything to proceed according to the schedule she'd carefully orchestrated. But traffic was lighter than expected. The bakery had the cake ready early. She found herself pulling into her driveway 90 minutes after she'd left, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. She balanced the cake box carefully as she entered through the garage, wanting to surprise Marcus with the elaborate creation. The house was quiet, the caterers weren't due for another hour. She heard them before she saw them. Soft laughter from the kitchen, the kind of intimate sound that belonged to secret moments. Rebecca's hands didn't shake as she approached. Some part of her had been expecting this, preparing for it. But seeing it was different. Marcus had Natalie pressed against the counter of Rebecca, had chosen when they'd renovated the kitchen 10 years ago. His hands were in her hair, her dress pushed up, their bodies moving with an urgency Rebecca hadn't seen from Marcus in years. The champagne flute she'd been holding, when had she picked that up, slipped from her fingers. Rebecca sat in her car outside the house, watching as the first guests began arriving for the party. She'd changed in the bathroom of a nearby hotel, slipping into the silver dress she'd bought specifically for tonight. In the mirror, she'd looked like a different woman, someone harder, sharper, more dangerous than the accommodating wife she'd played for so long. The envelope remained in her purse. Inside were documents that had taken her 6 months to prepare. 6 months of planning. While Marcus thought she was arranging charity galas, she waited until she saw Marcus's mother arrive, his brother's rental car pulling in behind her. Then she stepped out of her car and walked back into her house, as if nothing had happened. Rebecca, Marcus's mother, Eleanor, embraced her warmly. "This looks absolutely stunning. You've outdone yourself." "Thank you, Eleanor," Rebecca said, accepting a glass of champagne from a confused-looking caterer. Marcus appeared in the doorway, having changed into the suit Rebecca had laid out for him that morning. His face was a study in panic, barely held in check. "Becca," he started toward her. "Darling," she said brightly, loud enough for others to hear. "Happy birthday. Doesn't everything look wonderful?" She saw the relief flood his features, misinterpreting her performance as forgiveness, or perhaps denial. Natalie was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding in the pool house or gone entirely. Smart girl. The party unfolded like a beautifully choreographed disaster. Rebecca played the perfect hostess, laughing at the right moments, refilling glasses, ensuring everyone was comfortable. She gave a touching speech about 23 years of marriage, about building a life together, about trust and partnership. Marcus stood beside her, his smile frozen, sweat beading at his temples despite the cool evening. "You two are such an inspiration," Martha Blackwood gushed. "In this age of disposable relationships, it's wonderful to see real commitment." "Commitment," Rebecca repeated, raising her glass. "Yes, that's exactly the word." As the evening wore on, she watched Marcus slowly relax, probably convincing himself that what she'd witnessed could be explained away, minimized, survived. He began to drink more heavily, his laughter becoming louder, his stories more animated. The successful businessman celebrating his milestone birthday, surrounded by friends and family who admired him. By 10 o'clock, guests were beginning to leave. Rebecca stood at the door, accepting compliments on the party, promising to share recipes, making plans for lunches she would never attend. Finally, only family remained: Eleanor, Marcus's brother David, and his wife Lisa. They sat in the living room, Eleanor regaling them with embarrassing stories from Marcus's childhood. "I should go," Eleanor finally said around 11. "But Rebecca dear, this was perfect. Marcus is lucky to have you." "He certainly is," Rebecca agreed. After the family left, Marcus found Rebecca in the kitchen, overseeing the caterers as they cleaned up. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Yes," Rebecca agreed, "we do. But first, your gift." She retrieved her purse, pulled out the envelope. "I've been working on this for months." Marcus took it with shaking hands, perhaps expecting divorce papers. What he found was worse. Inside were documents showing that Rebecca had filed patents for improvements to several of Patterson Industries' key technologies, improvements based on ideas she'd contributed during late-night brainstorming sessions over the years, ideas Marcus had implemented without crediting her. There were incorporation papers for a competing firm she'd established, already funded with the money she'd been moving, contracts with 3 of Patterson's key employees who'd agreed to join her venture, a forensic accounting report showing discrepancies in Patterson Industries books that would trigger an SEC investigation if released, and, at the bottom, a single photograph from James Carpenter's surveillance, Marcus and Natalie at the Miami hotel, the timestamp clear. "What is this?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "Your birthday present," Rebecca said calmly. "The gift of truth. You see, Marcus, while you were fucking your secretary, I was busy too, building something, just like I helped you build Patterson Industries all those years ago." "You can't do this," he said, his face cycling through colors like a broken television. "I'll fight you. I'll destroy you in court." "With what money?" Rebecca asked. "The accounts are frozen," As of an hour ago, my lawyer filed the paperwork during your party. And your reputation. How do you think the board will react to the SEC investigation? Or to learning that their CEO has been having an affair with his secretary, while his wife, the actual brain behind several key patents, starts a competing firm? This is blackmail. No, darling. Blackmail would be if I asked you for something to keep quiet. I'm not asking for anything. I'm taking what I've earned. 23 years of being the perfect wife, of diminishing myself so you could shine, of pretending not to notice when you started looking through me instead of at me. Marcus sank into a kitchen chair, the same chair where he'd sat that morning eating his birthday breakfast. I do have a proposal, though, Rebecca continued. A birthday gift, if you will. You can keep Patterson Industries, what's left of it, after the audit. I'll take my competing company and the 3 employees. We'll call the divorce amicable. Irreconcilable differences. You can even keep the house. I never liked it anyway. And if I refuse, then I release everything. The SEC report, the affair, the security footage of you and Natalie in this kitchen today. Oh yes, I had James install cameras last month. Your elderly mother's heart might not survive the scandal. Marcus aged 10 years in 10 seconds. You've become cruel. No, Rebecca said softly. I've become awake. 3 years later, Becca stood on the balcony of her Boston office, watching the sun set over the harbor. Sinclair Technologies, she'd taken back her maiden name, occupied the top 3 floors of the building, with views that stretched to the ocean. Her assistant, Jennifer, knocked on the door. Your 5 o'clock is here. Send them in. She didn't turn when the door opened, recognizing the footsteps. Some sounds you never forget. Hello, Marcus. He looked older, grayer, somehow smaller than the man who'd once filled every room he entered. Patterson Industries had survived the SEC investigation, but barely. The stock had plummeted, and he'd been forced to sell to a competitor for a fraction of its former value. The office is impressive, he said. Thank you. She finally turned to face him. You said you had a business proposal. He shifted uncomfortably. I was hoping we could discuss it over dinner. For old time's sake. I have plans, Rebecca said. It wasn't true, but she'd learned the power of unavailability. Of course. He cleared his throat. I heard you're getting married to that professor. Dr. James Chun, Rebecca confirmed. She'd met James at a conference 2 years ago. A brilliant engineer who looked at her like she hung the stars, who celebrated her intelligence instead of feeling threatened by it. The wedding's in September. I'm happy for you, Marcus said, and she almost believed he meant it. The proposal, Marcus. He pulled out a folder, hands trembling slightly. Patterson Industries, what's left of it, needs a partnership. Your company has the technology we need. I'm prepared to offer favorable terms. Rebecca reviewed the documents, already knowing she'd accept, not out of kindness or nostalgia, but because it was a smart business decision. Her CFO had run the numbers weeks ago when they'd first heard Marcus was seeking partnerships. I'll have my team review it, she said. Rebecca. Marcus corrected himself. I need to say something. No, she said firmly. You don't. We're past apologies, Marcus, past explanations. What happened between us led me here, to this life I built myself. I won't thank you for betraying me, but I won't waste energy hating you either. And Natalie, he asked, the question seemingly pulled from him involuntarily. What about her? Did you know she left me 6 months after the divorce? Said I was too old, too complicated. Rebecca felt no satisfaction at this news, only a mild pity. She was 28. Marcus, what did you expect? I expected ... He trailed off, looking out at the view. I don't know what I expected. To feel young again, maybe, to matter the way I used to. You got older, Rebecca said simply. It happens to all of us. The difference is how we handle it. You tried to run from it, to hide in the arms of someone who made you forget. I decided to use it, to become someone who didn't need anyone else's validation. Marcus stood to leave, then paused at the door. The birthday party, he said. You knew I'd bring her to the house that day, didn't you? When you left for the cake, Rebecca smiled, the expression sharp as winter moonlight. I knew you'd been bringing her there for weeks. The bed sheets, Marcus. You started buying a different brand, the kind a younger woman would choose. I may have been blind to many things, but I always did the household shopping. Then why? Because I wanted to see it, she said, to burn the image into my memory so I'd never be tempted to forgive, to go back, to shrink myself again. And because I wanted you to know that I saw, that your last act in our marriage was witnessed, recorded, remembered. Marcus left without another word. Rebecca watched him go, then returned to her desk where wedding invitation samples waited for her review. She chose the one with silver embossing, elegant but modern, like the woman she'd become. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. "Dinner at 8, the Italian place you love." She smiled, genuinely this time, and replied, "Perfect. I have something to celebrate." "What's that?" Rebecca looked around her office, at the company she'd built, the life she'd claimed, the future she'd designed without compromise or apology. "Everything," she typed back. "Absolutely everything." Epilogue. 5 years later, the invitation arrived on cream-colored cards, expensive but desperate in its elegance. "You're invited to celebrate the 55th birthday of Marcus Patterson." Rebecca almost threw it away, but the handwritten note on the back stopped her. "Please come." She showed it to James that evening, as they cooked dinner together in their brownstone, their daughter Emma, playing with blocks on the kitchen floor. "Will you go?" James asked, chopping vegetables with the practiced ease of someone who enjoyed the ritual of cooking. "I don't know," Rebecca admitted. "Part of me never wants to see him again. And the other part," she considered this while helping Emma stack her blocks higher, "the other part thinks it might be important, not for him, for me, to see how far I've come." The party was at a restaurant, not his house. Rebecca recognized most of the faces, former colleagues from Patterson Industries, a few mutual friends who'd chosen sides after the divorce. She'd dressed carefully, a navy suit that meant business, her wedding ring catching the light. Her company's latest product launch featured in the Wall Street Journal that morning. Marcus stood near the bar, and Rebecca felt a jolt of something, not love, not hate, but memory. He looked tired but not broken, older but finally comfortable with it. "You came," he said when he saw her. "You asked," she replied. They stood together awkwardly, two people who'd once shared everything and now shared nothing but history. "Your daughter," Marcus said. "I heard. Congratulations." "Thank you. Emma's to next month." "I never wanted children," he said quietly. "You did, though." "I wanted a lot of things," Rebecca said. "Now I have them." Natalie appeared across the room, older now too, 36 to Marcus's 55. She was with someone else, a man her own age, her hand on his arm. She saw Rebecca, started visibly, then lifted her chin and walked over. "Rebecca," she said. "Natalie, I owe you an apology." Natalie said. The words rushed. "I was young and stupid, and you were young," Rebecca agreed. "And he was married, but I don't need your apology. That story ended a long time ago." Natalie's relief was palpable. She returned to her date, and Rebecca watched Marcus watching them, saw him finally understand what she'd known that day in the kitchen. Some gifts can't be stolen, only given, and some gifts, once given, can't be taken back. "I should go," Rebecca said. "Rebecca," Marcus called as she reached the door. "What was the real gift? The one you were going to give me before everything?" She turned back, studying this man who'd shaped so much of her life, both good and bad. "I was pregnant," she said simply. 6 weeks. I'd found out that morning." Marcus's face crumbled. "Oh God, Becca, I lost it 2 weeks after the divorce," she continued. "The stress," the doctor said. "Or maybe just bad luck." But Emma. She smiled, thinking of her daughter's laugh. James's gentle way of reading to her. "Emma is the child I was meant to have, with the right person, at the right time." She left him standing there, surrounded by party guests celebrating another year of his life. Outside, Boston sparkled in the evening light, and Rebecca breathed deeply, tasting freedom and future in equal measure. Her phone buzzed. James, sending a video of Emma trying to feed her dinner to their cat. "Coming home," she texted back, and she did, leaving the past where it belonged behind her, finished. A story whose ending she'd written herself, the perfect gift, it turned out, hadn't been revenge or justice or even success. It had been becoming someone who didn't need anyone else to complete her story, someone who could write her own.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.